I think DEI has been around for a long time. I mean, many people will say, oh, it's a new thing, it's a woke thing. I really dislike that because it's been around for years. It's just a title, it's just a label. And unfortunately, sometimes it's used as a weaponized word, which I think is really, really sad.
Hello everyone, today we have someone who really embodies leadership, sustainability and the inclusivity aspect that we talk about on a day-to-day basis. We have Charu Srivastava, who is the founder of TriOn Co based in Singapore. Welcome to Shiko, Charu.
Thank you so much, Shreya, for having me over.
Yeah, very excited for this conversation. Could you share a bit more with our listeners about yourself?
Well, I am one of the co-founders, so we are 3 founders. So also shout out to my 2 other partners in crime at TriOn Co, Joel and Marion. And together we do have TriOn, which is a communications consultancy that's based in Singapore, as you mentioned. And it's been around now for 2.5 years, and we'll be soon 3 next year. But beyond that, I mean, I have been a lifelong communications consultant, and through my journey of 16 years, I have worn many different hats, but I think one of the things that really has shaped me to who I am and why I'm here today, I guess, is my encounter with DEI. And I would say an encounter because, I mean, it's not something you suddenly go, oh yeah, what's DEI? It kind of came through with life, and that's led me down the path of advocacy and just speaking up more for people and for, situations where sometimes it's easier to keep quiet. So I think that's what's led me down this path. And I have been the inaugural chair of the Public Relations and Communications Association, APAC, the PRCA APAC DEI committee in Singapore, based out of Singapore, but for the APAC region. And yeah, I mean, like I said, it's been a journey, and hoping I can continue that with you today and hopefully be able to reach out to more people in this quest that I'm on.
Fantastic. And I completely agree with you in terms of like how DEI is a journey, the sense of inclusivity, standing up for the marginalized community, ensuring that every single part of the society is included.
Yes.
That brings me to the first question, which I believe would be really deep for you, that why does mental health and DEI matter to you so deeply? And why is it that it is so important in the public relations and the communications industry as of today?
Yeah. So I think the 2 parts of your question for me interlink, since I am both somebody who's in the industry and who's also a leader in the industry. So my personal, I guess, association with DEI and in turn with mental health, for me, both those things are very interlinked, came about during COVID. Right, which is, now that I think about it, it was a perfect storm, which we were all caught in, willingly, unwillingly, many times. So it was a sense of, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I love my job, but every year I was having this identity crisis, and I used to make it a badge of honor. Oh, what am I doing with myself? Oh, this is so crazy. And then I'm like, oh, but I can do it. And then in COVID, it was like, wait, why am I doing this? Right? Why do I put myself through the challenges, the rigors, the craziness that the industry brings with it, right? And I think COVID also gives you a sense of that time, because you really have nothing else to do. So there's a lot of time of retrospect and introspect, and I did a lot of that, and I realized I need something more to keep me going, because at that time, I think it was maybe I was in 11, 12 years in the industry already and in my career. So I felt like I was doing the same thing in a sense. Yes, it is consulting, so you tailor it and it's different for different clients, but essentially it's the same thing. So what is keeping me going, And a lot of the introspection led me to also think about, what am I passionate about in work, but work adjacent in a sense as well. And at that same time, as I said, the PRCA committee application opened up and they were like, hey, we're opening up a DEI committee and we're looking for the team. And it again triggered me down that path. And it made me also, in a way, think about my experiences with DEI, right? I think we talked about it very briefly, but we are both Indian women, and then so that in itself, Indian women in itself, has layers of diversity within it. Right. So I just reflect on my own experiences, my own journey, and I was like, you know what, I would love to speak a bit more in that capacity. And then it just got me like into this whole ecosystem of finding out more, learning more, exploring more of myself, the people around me, the industry, and that's how I just started that journey. And to the question about how it brought me to the industry specific stuff, I think DEI has been around for a long time. I mean, many people will say, "Oh, it's a new thing, it's a woke thing."
Yeah.
I really dislike that because it's been around for eons, right? It's just a title, it's just a label, and unfortunately, sometimes it's used as a weaponized word, which I think is really, really sad. But in a way, also, then I looked at the industry is very unique. It's actually a female majority industry, but when you peel off that layer of gender, there's so many other aspects to it. So that goes back down to DEI. It's very easy to whitewash it or broad stroke it in a sense, right? No pun intended on the white, but that's what it is. So again, when I said about my introduction is brown Indian lady, but there's so much more to who I am. My education, my background, what my exposure has been or what my journey has been. A lot of those things shape who you are. And I think that's when I started going, let's talk about things beyond just gender. I also find it's the easiest thing in the industry because we are, like I said, female majority. So it's very easy to be like, oh, but we don't have an issue. Look at it, so many females. And then you're like, yeah, but why is the leadership still not reflective of that? And is it all homogeneous females? Is there diversity in that? So it's kind of going beyond just that easy checkbox of, oh, look at us, we don't have an issue. And that is how I kind of went into it. And that's when I started talking about things from a DI lens in the industry. But also in that journey, I discovered that, mental health comes together with it. Because unless and until you feel you're in a place which is welcoming of every aspect of who you are, not welcoming with conditions, you're always going to be somewhat uncomfortable or standing out or just trying to fit into something, right? Not being your authentic self. And that leads to many issues of mental health. Because if you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel I can be who I am, I can't speak up at a meeting, all those things, it affects how you show up for yourself and others.
Absolutely.
And the other point to that, which I always really, really talk about a lot, is the industry has a bit of a responsibility the way we communicate, not just within the industry, but our clients are being counseled by us. And this whole question of who's in the room when decisions are being made, are they representative of the people we're talking to? There have been so many instances of brands and organizations that have been embroiled in DEI situations. And I get called a lot of times to comment on it. And I always say, well, if you have that situation, was that group that was offended represented in the room when those decisions were being made? As you were creating a communications campaign and a strategy, was the messaging run past the people you were talking to? Was the design, the graphics, the visual elements, were they being run past someone who is in that community, who understands the situation? Or was it a group which is totally disconnected and not bothered about that element making the decisions? Because many times that is a situation. So when it does go out and then people are like offended, they're like, oh no, we didn't mean it. It's like, yes, okay, we see you don't mean it, but did you make the extra effort? So I always advocate that a lot. So there's a very good case, a business case for diversity and inclusion equity in this industry. It is a business reason, not just do good. Because many people still will argue against it's a business, you don't need to do good for business and all of that, which also I disagree with. But if everything else fails, think of it as a business good. You're going to be better consultants, right? And then it leads to hiring and talent. The better you are in terms of understanding and welcoming people of all shapes and sizes and diversity of every nature, you're going to have better productive people, happier people, less mental health issues, more open conversations, more tolerance to discussions and differing views, which will make, like I said, at the end of the day, your work is going to be richer, better, and that will give you more revenue. So at the end of the day, it's a business case as well, which is why I always say, like, don't just do it for being, a good person. That would be ideal. But as we said, idealistic worlds are idealistic in that way. But practically also it makes sense. So let's do it for the right reasons and for the betterment of the company. if that's what is going to make you make that decision.
And I hear you in terms of having those inclusive voices to make that decision, understanding who your target market is, testing that with the target market, as you said, and then make
and even
that
if you
informed
can't do
decision.
the effort of testing, sometimes the budgets don't allow it. Totally understand. But if you have the right voices saying, hey, does that make sense? Right, we've seen it in Singapore in terms of even government messaging. Sometimes it doesn't fall right. It's just about, was there someone in the room who knew the community? Right, there has been typos in non-English language material. Was the person who spoke the language in the room like just one person to double check? Right, so it's just, and back to the point about why it is also important to have a welcoming environment. You could have the people who could see the mistake, but are they empowered to speak up? And that's where that equality piece also comes in, because you can have an extremely diverse room, but if there's a sense of you're all not all equal, you all are not empowered, only certain people can voice, you're defeating the purpose. So I always also say that it's not just, oh, I've done my checkbox exercise. And then what?
No, the quality will also be hampered.
Absolutely.
As you're saying. And given you had such a deep connection with this industry, and now you're starting, or rather you've already started out on building your own with the other two co-founders that you have. What is it that you believe that TriOn Co is doing differently that traditionally other PR agencies are not doing?
So I think we've been doing quite a few things. Firstly, like, we are extremely self-aware. And we've all three of us come with a long experience in the industry. We've all had our own different good, bad, ugly experiences through different stages in our lives and careers and everything. And we bring that view to TriOn. So some things we're very conscious of. So for instance, none of our job ads, none of our interviews ask for qualifications, right? Singapore is not that pronounced, but it still is a way of discriminating, because like I said, there's no real bearing to the job. So one thing we do, no educational qualifications. Second thing we do, we don't ask for last drawn salary. There are a couple of reasons for that. One of which is that what we are hiring you for is a role now. You might come from a different field. You might come from a slightly different kind of a setup. Titles are so fluid in this industry, right? Someone with a 3-year experience might be called something else in another agency. When you go to another consultancy, that might translate to something else. So if I'm pegging you to a salary, it's a very arbitrary kind of a judgment of what you are financially, I guess, privileged to have, right? And the other thing is, sometimes you take a break, you go for education, you take a maternity break, or you had to step away for, family reasons, whatever it is, there's a myriad of reasons for that. Am I going to peg you for who you were, let's say 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 3 years ago, but I'm hiring you for a higher role? Or times have changed, inflation has hit. Why am I penalizing you for that? So it's always for the fairness of what we are expecting you to commit to and, be responsible for in this particular role. That is more important. So we very consciously have, like, we've been in the industry for long enough. We have conversations with peers and friends, and we have a sense of salary brackets and stuff. We're very open about it, and that's what we use as a gauge. We're not going to undercut people just because they've given us, and it's also a very arbitrary question. How much do you, it's like they have no idea. And if they undersell themselves, are we going to be like, yes, got them? No, right? That's not fair either. So then we are very fair and upfront about it, and we don't have the conversation based on what you were paid previously. Because if you came from a toxic environment where you're being underpaid, then are we going to continue the toxicity? That's another reason. So that's the other thing that we don't talk about. And then, of course, we have no ask of any of the demographic questions. None of that. Age is not an issue either for us. In fact, we have a mature intern right now who has been in the industry for, I think she's been working for 13 years and all, but it's in a different industry, sister industry, I would say. She's come on board. We're like, yeah, sure, come on. That's no issue there at all. So there's a lot of that openness, and we have very strict policies and very clear written promises which we uphold. in terms of no discrimination, whether it's age, sex, sexuality, ability as well. I myself am neurodiverse, I'm dyslexic. I talk about it very openly. We also have that written into our policy. So it's a very clear sense of these are our rules. And whoever comes on board, you have to follow those rules. And we have zero tolerance of anyone who does not respect that. Respect is a huge part of the company's culture. It's one of our values. And when we bring in people and if they do not respect, then for us it's a very clear thing. We're like, look, we've been very upfront with you. Here's the kind of place we have, the culture that we're creating. And if that's not aligned with you, then unfortunately maybe it's not the right place for you.
Yeah.
But it's a very clear thing. So in fact, sometimes when I'm also hypersensitive, and I see people who are junior or people who might feel a bit out of place, and for that matter they self-censor. I'm also very open about, like, what do you think? Giving them that space. It's that having a safe environment.
Yeah.
That you're not going to be judged from because of what you say or what you don't say. Yeah. And we have people, like I said, coming from all types of backgrounds, and some of them are not as articulate or confident, but they need to have a starting point to build that confidence and that articulation. They can't straight away be like, okay, I'm perfect. So it's giving them that grace as well. And we have that very clearly ingrained in our policies. But I always say having policy is great, but what about actual execution? So for us, the three of us are very clear and aligned on these things, and that it starts from top down. And we openly talk about it as well. I think it creates a sense of, this is what we always are, championing. So I hope that they are very happy and comfortable to come up to us if there was any of that kind of a issue in any way.
It's interesting because it's tough to align purpose, people, and profit at all times, right?
Yeah.
And clearly, what you're sharing, TriOn Co walks the talk, right?
Yeah.
And it also, I believe, sometimes is influenced by our clients in terms of what is it that they want.
Yeah.
As well, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's a services business.
Yeah.
How is it that you can align all of these three? I wanted to understand, because there are enough companies within the industry that tend to be more profit driven. It's not a bad thing, because
of
they're
course.
a services business.
No,
right?
absolutely.
They tend to be more profit driven.
Yeah.
And then the people and the purpose takes a very, very, very
Backseat.
behind the back seat.
Yeah.
Right. So how does that sense of authenticity, the sense of inclusivity, and the sustainable aspect as well,
Yeah.
is maintained not just on paper,
Yep.
but in practice
Yep.
at TriOn Co?
I think it's a very good question, because one of the things I didn't touch on, but I think is very relevant, is that we have a very strong manifesto. In fact, that manifesto was created before we even started the company, right? So the three of us sat down, and we just thought about the kind of place we want to build, the kind of company, the kind of environment we want to create, and we wrote down 7-8 points that really capture the essence of our thinking and our values and our, I would say, like, our boundaries as well as a company. And that includes things like, if we're not going to chase money, if we do good work, authentic work, quality work, it will happen, it will come to us.
Yeah.
And we have zero tolerance for clients who, let's say, are toxic, abusive, or who are disrespectful. So respect is something that's woven through everything we do, and we stand by that. We also talk about how the team comes first, and the team's well-being is always going to be main focus and core to what we're doing, because our work is the people. So if our people are unhappy, our work's not going to be great either. So we're very clear with that. Very, very, very deep link between the two. So what that means is, when we have conversations with prospective clients, we're not just pitching ourselves, we are also looking at them. I mean, our clients have really, really reciprocated, and I think it speaks to the fact that like attracts like.
And again, like I said, we also are judging people who are coming to ask us to work with us, or people who we have conversations with. If we do find that there's no alignment, we rather walk away. Because then it's better to cut it off at that point than to go into issues that develop as we start working together. But we've had clients who've been so fantastic. I mean, our clients last year, I remember there was one who was like, "Oh, I'm so conscious you're going to be off in 10 days. Can we finish this before we go? Oh, I don't want to bother you. Can we, get this
that's
done?"
amazing.
So we're like, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it's the respect. Again, back to the respect.
Yeah.
We respect them and we're honest with them and tell them this is coming up. And then the respect is returned. So it's a very, symbiotic relationship. It's a very respectful relationship. And it's a very honest relationship. There's no hiding. There's no trying to hoodwink anyone. It's transparent. We're honest with them. And some people might say we're too honest, but that's what works for us. It works for our clients and it's working for the team and the business is doing well. As you said, profits, we love money.
Yeah.
No one's saying no to money.
Yeah.
But it's part of that whole situation of, let's say sometimes we have people coming and saying, "Oh, can you please give us a discount and everything?" And we're like, well, it will be a discount to what we are doing, but we are always fair in our pricing regardless. We're not going to inflate for one person and give a discount for another. So if you're like, look, we are giving you a fair pricing. If you can work with it, that's great. If you can't, then okay. So we stay true to who we are. It's not a sense of just get as many clients as possible, cut the rates to get them, and then work the team to the bone and throw them to the wolves, and we're just sitting around and shaking our legs and getting all the money. Like, it works. It does not work. That's actually a very sure way to drive the business down. Because after a while, people are tired, exhausted, they quit. And then what? Who's doing the work? Who's servicing the clients?
Yeah.
The clients leave, the business dies, and then that's it.
Yeah.
You're gone. So, which is why I'm saying that makes business sense. Having a mentally healthy workplace, a welcoming workplace, it actually has business implications. It can be seen in your bottom line. It's not for the fun of it.
Yeah.
People, and we have so many safeguards from that mental health perspective in terms of we have unlimited leave, which is like, your short work week. But all of this is done with the expectations that when we are together and working, we do our best work. So our employee handbook has a section on expectations of us as employers and expectations of them as employees. Because it's a relationship and it's a respect.
Yeah.
It's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. But then we expect that if we hold our end of the bargain, you're holding your end of the bargain as well. So all of that together, which is why I find it very difficult to separate the DEI and to separate the mental health, because maybe not the right way, but the best way that I see it working together is that it's so closely woven together, you can't pick the two apart. Because they're so closely interwoven. You pull one out, the other collapses. And you can't split the two. Because there's so many overlaps, there's so many areas where one can't do without the other. So yeah, that's how we do it.
Yeah, and it makes so much sense because any business needs to be sustainable. And how it is
100%.
sustainable, as you said, like there are so many layers. There's DEI, there's inclusion, there is clients and the services team need to work hand in hand. But the one thing that really struck for me the most is the clarity in communication.
Yeah.
Because you're able to communicate to your employees, to the industry, to the clients.
Yeah.
This works well.
Yeah.
If not for that, then it would just fall into different pieces.
It's actually very interesting because it's funny. I think it's something that's very known in the industry, but many times as comms people, we're really bad at communicating for ourselves. It's an irony, like we do it professionally, we do it for our clients, but when it comes to us, for the company, so many times, time and time again, we've seen people really, really failing at that. And that leading to quite disastrous outcomes on many forms. So for us, it's really like over communication for many parts, which again might seem a bit excessive, but that's what is needed. And one thing we always say, if you repeat something that you are very passionate about, and you repeat it a second time and a third time, by the fourth time, the person on the other side knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So we just have to keep at it. You can't give up after the first try. And you will find that after a while of saying those things, and if you're on the right path, the buy-in comes in. We're not advocating for something that's radically bad. It's radically good.
Yeah.
So those people who are not going to stand up for, what's the reason? Right? They're going to be caught out of being on the wrong side of the conversation. So, we've been very lucky, I would say, and I think we've been very consciously working at it. So that's also been part of that, not just pure luck, but we've been surrounded by partners, clients, and our team that buys into the vision that we have. And again, like I said, I've been in the industry long enough. I've seen how sometimes at boundaries we don't draw for ourselves. And I think for me personally, I saw COVID was a turning point because so many of those self-imposed rules were forcefully thrown away. Like, oh, you have to meet in person for client meetings. COVID suddenly went, why?
Yeah.
You have no choice. You cannot meet. And then we're like, oh, okay, we'll make it work. And now it's like, oh yeah, that works. Why were we trying to do that before? Why were we forcing ourselves into that situation? So many different things along the way, which the industry is like, why do we need any of that now? So why don't we adapt and learn from that and find a way of being better and working, making life easier for everyone involved? And yeah, boundaries are great.
Yeah.
And if we can communicate that properly, then everybody's happy.
Yeah, and as long as outcomes are ever evolving,
Yeah.
even if it's a 3-day work week or a 7-day work week, as long as the outcomes are achieved,
exactly.
I believe so that it needs to be comfortable with everyone involved in the decision making.
And that's what our clients know, that at the end of the day, how we work internally doesn't affect what is the output. If you think about it, right, why would they care what we are doing as a company for our team? For them, they're like, look, we hired you for a service, you provide your service, excellent. So as long as we can maintain that, and how we are doing it, as long as it's not a bother on them, as long as it's not impacting them, do what you need to do. That's all that matters. Yeah. And it's still honest work, it's still genuine work, it's still authentic work. And that's when I said that honesty comes in really handy. You can't be afraid of speaking up. You can't be like, oh, I can't tell the client that. It's like, but if you don't tell them, you'll never know. Like, the Friday 2 p.m. switch off. If you don't tell them, they'll keep messaging us or they'll keep reaching out to us. And it's to no fault of theirs, right? Because they don't know. So we just tell them, hey, we have a 4.5 day work week. We are off after 2 p.m. They learn, they know. And sometimes they do, sometimes they're like, oh, no, I know you're already off, but I had to just send this through. If we are, it's not like it's a land in the sand where it's like, okay, it's gone now. That's it. No more questions there. If we need to, we'll answer. We'll respond. But otherwise, it's understandable. We'll get back to you, and we get back to you. Yeah. No, clear communication for sure. Super, super important. 100%. It's been a great conversation, Charu. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing such great information in terms of I'm completely an outsider from like an industry perspective, but some of the things that I found common, like I've been into media previously, advertising to be specific, and a lot of it as just client facing people, like we just tend to look at those green paper and not necessarily think about anything else. Absolutely. Like in terms of like standing your own ground is also super important. One line of wisdom or one quote or anything that given you're also very ever evolving, you love the path of growth, as you've spoken previously as well. One thing that today in 2025 has really stuck with you. I think for me personally, I'm always about learning, and it also goes into the whole thing about all that I've talked about. Don't be stuck in I know everything. Nobody at any point in their life and their careers, in anything that you're doing, knows everything. So that, and once you remove ego from situations, which is also saying I don't know, you're opening yourself up to learning, to discovery, and that's only going to make you a better person. And that also actually links to your mental health, and that also links to DEI. Because then you're not closing yourself off to stereotypes or misconceptions or, all the different things that stem from these sense of, I don't want to learn, I don't want to talk to new people, I don't want to try new things, or I know everything and you're always wrong. Just remove that ego, you're going to be fine. And just be open. It's okay to not know, and it's okay to make mistakes. And as long as you can be honest about that to yourself and the people around you, it's only going to make you a better person.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that, Charu.
Thank you.
One thing that really stuck with me, that you mentioned, that there are criteria for always hiring people that fit the box.
Yeah.
And that's what we mentioned at Shiko as well, that Shiko, no women, is part of the big dot that is created for us.
Yeah.
We are beyond the dot.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.